So you're ready to go headless, you've chosen your approach, you have a good idea of the technology, but ultimately it comes down to one thing, and that's the team that's doing the work. In one of my previous videos, I talked about the technology, are you confused about composable commerce? This would help you really understand the sort of technologies you're looking for and how the technology comes together and in what context. In another video, 3 approaches to going headless, I talk through the high-level approaches you could take to move from a monolith to a headless architecture. And if you want to see them, I've put a card in the corner so you can find them. But all of that is irrelevant if you don't have the right team in place. So what I'm going to go through is really guidance on how to compose your teams, how to run your team for moving from a monolith to a MACH architecture. So these principles are really high-level principles based on what I've learned building the teams at Amplience to deliver a highly scalable, highly performant CMS. So there's a lot to cover, and let's get to it. When thinking about building the teams, you can think about 3 guiding principles. The first one is agility. And at a high level, the team really must have a good understanding of agile development. They must be able to follow an agile methodology, and the team must be geared up to follow continuous integration and delivery. The second key principle is what I call product focus. And what I mean by that is the team should be really focused on developing a product and not working on projects. So they're not moving around, they're focused on a particular product area. Product teams really focus on business areas, and the teams prioritize delivering business value as quickly as possible. And a big part of that is really understanding the customer's needs. And my third principle is about team empowerment. Teams should be able to self-organize. They should have everything they need to deliver their key values. And senior leaders need to support and guide these teams, give them objectives, not mandates. And as you can see, we have kind of an unfortunate acronym, APE, and it wasn't intentional. It was just as I was writing it out. But hey, it's easy to remember. So you could say your team should go APE. Who knows? The fundamentals of Agile are incremental development. And that doesn't mean a phased approach. Let's do phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. It is small, incremental developments that deliver value to a customer. And what it means in this scenario is that you may choose a MACH supplier, choose a number of microservices, and then run a proof of concept, and then try it out in front of some customers to see what they think. Or you might do it just to learn a bit around the technology and get your team up to speed. So rather than long, protracted analysis and technical design processes, you would use what you call a spike. And this is where you allow the team to dive into a technical problem to try and understand what the constraints are, what the solution might be, and understand some of the architectural concepts around it. The first part of the process is about driving small incremental developments until you get to an MVP. The MVP, or minimal viable product, can be defined as a new version of a product which allows the team to collect a maximum amount of validation and learning about customers with a minimal amount of effort. What it's not is just a first release that you fire and forget. It's a tool to get something in front of a customer as soon as possible and start to learn, are you going in the right direction or do you need to make a course correction? And I've had arguments with technologists and architects who think it's a lazy way of developing a product, a way of just getting something out and then forgetting about it. And it's not the principle. The principle is get it out there as soon as possible, learn as soon as possible, and iterate. The other problem that you might have is that you end up with minimal product. You get the problem where a team might do as little as possible and think it's still a valuable product. And then when you show it to a customer, it just doesn't work. You can't collect the data because they can't use the product. So you get an invalid result. Now, there is a fine balance here, which is as you're building out minimal viable product, you will naturally incur some technical debt. And there's always a balance between how much technical debt do you deal with and what's vital, what's core, what's going to be part of that architecture that's going to take you forward, what's about scale, what's about performance. Again, what's really valuable to the customer themselves. So my second guiding principle is teams need to be product focused, not project focused. And what I mean by that is a team will own and build out a specific business area. They won't wander around the platform like technical wildebeests, doing technical projects and replacing parts of the architecture. These teams will not be aligned to tiers in the platform. They won't be aligned to components in the architecture. They won't be aligned to specific platforms and software packages. They will be aligned to the business and have all the resources they need technically to deal with all of the components of the architecture. So why is this important? Because if your teams are project teams and they move around the platform, what you have is a program of work. You have a project plan. You end up in a waterfall methodology, even if the team are applying Agile principles. You can end up in the worst of worlds, what I call the scrummerfall. What you need are teams that own their own area across the entire platform. As you decide to replace new pieces of the customer journey or areas of the business, you deploy a new team or expand the scope of an existing team if it is adjacent to their business area. They should never be constrained by the technology, even though their starting point might be technical, like a piece of MACH technology or a set of microservices. A business area could literally be a part of a customer journey, such as the customer purchasing path. So they could, in effect, own the PDP, the basket, and the checkout process. Or in some cases, it's so complex that you might just get them to own the basket or the checkout process. Or they start at the basket and then move out from there. When you think about product teams, you kind of need to think about them as mini companies where you set them objectives like an OKR. The key is once they're allocated to that area, they stay in that area and they become domain experts in that area and they optimize that area of the business. And like I said, the focus on customer value and business value means it's about product management, not project management. And what the teams deal with instead of a project plan is a prioritized backlog where they will offset customer value, business value, and technical debt. Now, my third guiding principle is one of empowered teams. Team empowerment in this context is a huge subject, and actually, it really should have a video of its own. And if you want me to do a video just for team empowerment, I'm more than happy to do so. Just add a comment, tell me what you'd like. What I'm going to do is give you the basics you'll need straight out the blocks. Number one, the team needs to be self-sufficient. It basically needs people with all the right skills and experience to develop out that business area. To make it easy, I've grouped them into three types of team members. First of all, you need people who are focused on the business aspects. So no team can be without a business owner. And the business owner's job is to gather all of the customer requirements, help in the prioritization, help guide the team through what's important to the customer, what's important to the business, and also help with that communication back to stakeholders. Another resource you might need is a business sponsor. And a business sponsor is a key stakeholder where their own objectives may be affected indirectly or directly by the business area the team is developing. They'll help to clarify what the business really needs. They'll remove all of the roadblocks and the political barriers. They'll help provide the access you need to customers, the access you need to different parts of the business, and they'll help with communicating upwards and outwards into the rest of the organization. Another valuable member are actually user champions. These could be anything from actual customers to business practitioners. They tend to be very passionate about helping the product develop. It works really, really well in a B2B environment. And we've done this ourselves in co-development. It's extraordinarily valuable. It means you know you're delivering something that has value straight out the blocks. Obviously, the next set of skills are technical skills. You'll need front-end developers, back-end developers, full-stack developers. You'll need tech specialists for particular pieces of software. You may need tech specialists in legacy systems to help you do integrations. You also need your QA and your testers in the same team. Basically, you need all the technical resources to develop that product without dependencies into other teams. And the third category I've called supporting. So I would roll in creative, UX, design. If you have them in the product team instead of in a supporting team, you can make so much more progress. Another one is DevOps/SysOps, and this goes down into the continuous integration and delivery. Another critical role might be the architect. You may have an architect full-time. If it's a large business area that's very complex and you're trying to unravel lots of pieces as you're developing it out on legacy systems, or you may have someone just pop in part-time. And basically, you should have any skills you need in that team to deliver that product, whatever they are. So let's talk about the second factor that's critically important to empower a team, And yeah, you guessed it, it's leadership. What you need are leaders, not managers. You need leaders that can set the vision and can set the strategy. What you don't need are managers who are going to try and command and control. And that means you shouldn't see a project plan. You shouldn't see any mandates like you'll deliver this feature by this date. They should not be micromanaging. And one of the most hideous words I hear in modern day technical development is the word governance. It's a Trojan horse way of commanding and controlling the product teams. It's not that you don't need any less people leading the business. You just need them to be better leaders. They need to be able to guide the team. They need to be able to set objectives. Those objectives should be OKRs, not KPIs. They need to make fast and collaborative decision making. And ultimately, they need to empower the product teams. And then that leads us to the final factor in empowering product teams. And that is to remove all dependencies. We've already talked about that in terms of team members, making sure that they have all the skill sets they need to deliver the product. And we've just discussed how leadership plays a vital role in that. Another awkward dependency you have in bigger organizations that, again, leadership can help with is that of politics and departmental boundaries. If the teams have to start asking for permission before they can move on, the whole thing will grind to a halt. And another annoying dependency I've seen product teams face are those global architectural platform rollouts. You know the ones. We have the team that is managing the new e-commerce platform. We have the team that is doing the middleware implementation. And then what that means is there are dependencies for the product team on other parts of the system. And that means that they can't deliver the customer value fast enough. It means they have to make decisions based on technology, not the customers or the business. So wherever possible, whether you're a leader or an architect, it's looking at the platforms, looking at the teams, and alleviating the dependencies. In conclusion, when you're moving from a monolith into a MACH architecture and you're going headless, there's a huge amount to think about beyond the technology. There's a huge amount to think about when it comes to how you construct the teams, where the teams will be focused, and how the teams are going to run, and how you're going to empower those teams. It can be hugely complex because you have to think about the architecture, you have to think about the suppliers, and you often have to deal with politics. I think these three guiding principles can go somewhere into helping you navigate through that and build highly productive product teams that feel empowered. And that's all we've got time for today. Hopefully it wasn't too much of a rant, and hopefully you've got something from this and you enjoyed the video. And if you have, can I ask you one favor? Can you scroll down a little bit, press that like button so this video can spread to others and they can also enjoy this video. Thank you, goodbye, and I'll see you next time.